Good evening, everybody. I think, Steffi, can you give me a thumbs up that we've got everyone in the room? We've got everyone in the room. Wonderful, wonderful. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people. They're the traditional custodians of the land that we're gathering on tonight, and to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And indeed, if we've got any First Nations people with us tonight, I'd also like to acknowledge you and welcome you to Trinity College. My name is Scott Charles. I've got the privilege actually of being the Deputy Warden here at Trinity College. I'm also an alumni. I went through as a student a few years ago. I'm not going to say how many years ago, but I was a student here as well. I went off and did other things, and then I did return to the college. But I want to thank you all for coming tonight, because one of our sort of strategic missions, if you like, is with our alumni, is to make sure that our alumni realise that your journey at Trinity College doesn't end when you walk out the gates as an undergraduate or you finish the foundation studies program. It doesn't end there. So for our alumni, it's because we want you to always know that there's a lifelong connection with Trinity College. I want to welcome and thank our staff for being here. It's another important aspect and another strategic plan. Part of our strategic plan is making sure that our staff are sort of always involved and can get involved with our events and our programs and the different things we run here. But I know that the students also love it when you're back here, when the staff are here as well. And then the last group, I want to welcome the last group for people who may never have been here to Trinity before. And I say that because another part of our strategic mission is that we want the broader community to understand a lot more about Trinity College and the sorts of events that we actually run and the sorts of programs that we run. So I'm really pleased to see a lot of people who haven't been to Trinity College here before here tonight. Now we have a terrific event for us planned for you tonight. It's a very topical subject. We have a wonderful panel that we've assembled. And I'm not going to introduce the panel because I'm going to leave that to our facilitator, Stephen, to do. But I did want to say just a couple of words about our facilitator and the person who's going to run the chat tonight, Stephen Li. Stephen, he was born in Mauritius. He joined us here at Trinity College in 1998. He then went on and he did a Bachelor of Information Systems at Melbourne University, and then he did an MBA. He's worked at a few different organisations in sort of gradually more senior roles, and he's currently an Associate Director at the Australian Tax Office. So we're very privileged to have you here, Stephen. The other thing that Stephen's done, of course, is he's the founder of our co-sponsor tonight, which is Aspire. And you know, the mission of Aspire, as a lot of you who've come through that group and joining us tonight will know, but it's about connecting professionals and empowering them so that they realise that, you know, or they can gather the skills around innovation, entrepreneurship and expertise. So can you please join me in welcoming the facilitator for this evening, Stephen Li.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Li, as just mentioned. I'm the founder of Aspire, and as Scotty mentioned, Aspire, the vision for Aspire is about innovation, but innovation happens when connection happens. So networking is something that we do a lot on a monthly basis, and also whenever I networking, I kind of enjoy networking myself. I've been doing that for over 5 years, and whenever I meet people, they kind of tell me very beautiful stories. I thought, you know, you're just telling me on a one-on-one basis. It might be good just to make it more efficient to share it with a wider audience. Hence, Aspire started, where I kind of invite professionals, founders, to kind of give or share the journey to the audience. So the community that I've amassed within Aspire is about 4,000 members, so, and it's growing, and thanks again for the support. But this week is quite an interesting week as well, because one of our community partners, Asian Hustle Network, they do have a special week. It's called the Heritage Week, where all the Asians kind of get together throughout the week to kind of organize an event. And today, we're fortunate to be part of that event as well. Asian Hustle Network, just a bit quick topic on that one. It's a global network, and we have the president of the AHN here tonight, which you might want to say hello later after the session. But Trinity is just a wonderful venue here. Very pleased to be back, and also just met a few of the people who taught me 25 years ago. And very pleased to see you, and also very good to see all the classmates, if not people who've been through this journey, same as me. But AI is something of the topic tonight, and it's revolving from every corners. Whenever you kind of open the newspapers, you would see AI here and there. But it's hard to believe, less than 3 years ago, ChatGPT sprinted from 1 million users to 1 million users in just 5 days, a record that stunned the tech world. But today, weekly users top 500 million and keep climbing. So that meteoric rise, I would say, it signals a bigger, something that's bigger. AI has moved from lab curiosity to everyday infrastructure. But across industry, the shift is as dramatic. A fresh McKinsey survey shows 71% of organizations now deploy generative AI in at least one business function. And investors also voting with their wallet. Venture funding for AI startup has hit 100 billion USD in 2024. But nowhere is the promise clearer than in education. AI-powered tutors, adaptive curricula, and automated admin are reshaping classroom. Students, tertiary students, 86% already relying on AI in their studies. And just imagine every learner, whether you're in Melbourne or Manila, having a personal, always awake tutor to teach you calculus, translate Chinese to French, and also marks you in seconds. That's a productivity dividend, I would say, not just for the school, but for the entire talent pipeline that fuels innovation and entrepreneurship. Of course, disruption cuts both ways. The World Economic Forum projects that AI-driven transformation will affect 22% of current jobs in 2030. Tackling bias, ensuring transparency, crucially though, reskilling the workforce are challenges we must solve together. The good news is, this room is filled with entrepreneurs, educators, and leaders who can turn those challenges into opportunities. Our 4 panelists are living that future already, building companies, tools, and policies that harness AI-powered responsibly. I can't wait to unpack their insights. I would like to welcome the 4 panelists on the stage for the session. I might just perhaps start by myself with saying that, as Scotty mentioned earlier, I have been, it was quite an interesting journey for me from Trinity to where I am today. And I would say the foundation that I acquired from Trinity was critical for where I am standing today. The way the teacher kind of really kind of involved with engaging with the students are a game changer for me. But as where I am now, you will attest similar views, I would hope. But I might start with asking the panel to introduce themselves. Kathryn, you kind of representing someone today who's a Trinity alumni, but would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Stephen, for the very warm welcome. So as noted, my name is Kathryn Tran. I'm a corporate commercial lawyer specializing in mergers and acquisition. And my connection with Trinity stems from a very close friend and client. Her name is Ms. Angelique Kumanan. I believe she's in the audience tonight as well. And so the way that Angelie and I have connected is through work. So I work at Cornwall's, and she has started a small business called ABA for short, and it's called Athlete Business Accelerator. So as the name suggests, the premise of the business is that we connect with high-profile athletes and high-net-worth individuals, and we build essentially a seed of an idea or a vision, and we scale that into a viable business model, and we allow that to scale into something profitable. And I'm really excited to be part of the panel tonight to share my insight in AI and how it intersects with the law. So I'm super excited to share those experiences with you.
And Josh is a clinical psychologist and a PhD candidate researching AI in psychiatry. Josh also currently serves as chair of Trinity Foundation Studies Alumni Network. Josh, may I ask if you can perhaps add a bit on your journey from Trinity to where you are?
Hi everyone, my name is Josh Nguyen. I came to Australia in 2016 to start my foundation studies in the February main intake. And after that, I went on to do my bachelor degree majoring in psychology and continue to do my honors in psychology, master of clinical psychology, and get registered and practicing, managing my private practice actually just across the road on Royal Parade. About 3 years ago, I received a scholarship to do my PhD degree in developing and machine learning AI models to predict suicide attempts for young people. And it actually feels very special to be back here at Trinity College. So.
Thank you, Josh. Kelvin is currently a lecturer at Deakin University, School of IT, where his research is based on lattice-based cryptography, quantum computing, and applied AI. Alongside his academic role, he's also a data scientist at ANZ Bank, applying AI to enhance customers' financial well-being. Kelvin, are you able to share a bit of your journey from Trinity to where you are today?
Sure. Thanks for the very technical introduction of myself. I joined Trinity back 20 years ago in 2005. So this year is the 20 years anniversary. I was in October Fast Track back then. So I still remember it might take a little bit longer for me to introduce myself since back in 20 years. So I still remember a conversation I had with my grandfather back in 20 years when I was transferring from Trinity to university. And, as a typical Chinese parent or grandparent, advice has always been very practical, study something that will make you a lot of money in future. I guess, looking at myself now, with a career, filled with buzzwords like AI, quantum, I think he would be very proud of me. Perhaps not for the money-making part. But, back 20 years, nobody in China, majority of the people didn't, know about AI, neither myself, neither did I. But fast track to, about a month ago when I was in China buying a new mobile phone for my dad, I was explaining to him, this more expensive model has, AI enhanced the camera and other things. And he was like, okay, I'm going to get this one then. And I was like, well, but you don't know what they do, right? And he said, well, actually I do. They make people look younger and prettier on the phone. Is that, even my dad pays attention to AI, but, obviously on a very small part. So I didn't start the reason I'm telling you this is because I didn't start my career with AI. By the way, I'm a mathematician. I know I don't look like a mathematician today because you hardly see any with a suit and tie. But I'm a mathematician. I started my career study in mathematics. And no one in my family expected that because both my grandparents were mathematicians and they taught in uni back in China. They would always, tell me, mathematics will lead you to careers, a teacher, a researcher. None of them can make you rich, which is true. But I still started, my study with mathematics, and somehow it sort of, led me onto a journey into AI, where I found my mathematical skills, really helpful to make machines to learn things, predict things, and do really interesting stuff. But I'm not saying everyone who wants to become an AI expert need to study mathematics. It's one way to get into AI, but it's one of the infinite many different paths into AI. So people are from all walks of life to finding their own path into AI. From law, from business, entrepreneur, medicine. I mean that's why we're all here tonight with a common interest of how AI make our society a better place, safer place, and a healthier place.
Thanks for sharing this, Kelvin. And our fourth panelist, Yifei, is the founder of AI Build, a Melbourne-based AI and high-tech commercialization startup specializing in education, supply chain, and healthcare. He leads major multi-million-dollar government-funded initiatives with the University of Melbourne and Monash University, translating research to boost Australia's innovation and global competitiveness. Yifei, are you able to share a bit from your journey?
Thanks very much, Stefan, and for the introductions. And yeah, I'll just try to make it a little bit shorter. All right. So my connection with Trinity starts roughly about like 12 years ago. At that time, I was just like less than 20 years old, and I was fairly new here. I was shy, and I was my English was pretty poor at that time, and so I have to like enroll into extensive course, which is lasts like 1.5 years, and but that really the journey actually really ignites me the passions to focus on something that's interesting and curiosity and also the novel innovation stuff. So and I after the Trinity I enrolled into the Bachelor of Science, the major in computer science in the Melbourne Uni. And after I graduated as a bachelor student from Melbourne Uni, I start to do 3 things together. One is, as an Asian background, parents, they always ask me to do the masters, right? Just in case I have to go back. And so I do the master of IT and artificial intelligence in Melbourne Uni, and I start to teaching and casually at unis for the machine learning, the internet technologies, engineering, risk management, engineering, entrepreneurship, and other 7 subjects. And also I start to found my own AI and IT companies starting 2017. So now it's been around 8 years. And I would say I was quite lucky and to have a bunch of talent and colleagues with me and a lot of classmates. So currently we have already got a lot of recognitions from the city councils, the state government, and also the federal government by collaborating and leading some of the multi-million government-funded projects. Up to now is roughly about 20 mil projects. Across from different kind of industries like AI with constructions, infrastructures, educations, healthcare, aged care, supply chains, marketing, etc. So there will be a lot of stuff because we really think that now this is a time for us to do some innovations that in Australia by using the high-tech technologies, just like AI or other robotics, quantum computing, to really shaping Australia to a better future and to becoming present in the global presence as a very strong global competitiveness. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Yifei. I'm pretty sure the audience would agree that we are well placed to kind of share a bit of our experience in the AI. But AI, as we all know, is quite reliant on data. They kind of mention data is the new oil, and everyone is kind of jumping into it and training the data to create new models. But just a bit of a context before we start. AI, the concept itself, because when I met with a few people, they are yet to join or to kind of use AI, and some of them are quite proficient. But in a short kind of summary, it's about using the data that we have and kind of train the model to a kind of spatial kind of 3D concept, if I may. Perhaps if we look at the room, just think of the room as a model where we have in the 3D space all the words that we have in a book, for example. So we can train the machine and spit out all the models and representing by certain vectors in the room, and where the amount of words repetition in a book represents the size of the bubble that floats in the air as a 3D kind of concept. But just kind of think through, this is just one book we are kind of representing in a 3D environment, but think of all the data that we have in the world, from all the books we've been written hundreds of years ago, digitized content, and kind of we all kind of train the model to have all the words in that kind of same spatial again, sorry my pronunciation, a space, and then all the knowledge that sits in that space, and that's what we refer as a kind of, for example, a ChatGPT 3.5. That's kind of good concept to kind of gain an understanding of an AI. So whenever we prompt ChatGPT, we kind of tap into the 3D spatial space to kind of dig in the relationship between the words in that space, and then it will spit out kind of recommendation based on the pathways and also the kind of proximity on the words. That's a kind of quick summary of AI for those who are not too familiar. But as mentioned, data is something that's reliant on a good model. And there are a lot of concern, in particular in Australia, where they understand that whatever they put forward will be absorbed by the machine and the content gets trained. A lot of artists is complaining, as you know, in the news, saying that all their books, all their arts is being absorbed and being trained to kind of spit out free information, free arts to everyone who uses the technology. But sticking with the data, perhaps I might just start with Josh, given your research in psychology, where a lot of sensitive information are being kind of absorbed. How do you have that kind of ethical guidelines in terms of using those data and AI in the mental health application?
Thanks for the question. I think it's a very important question that we should all think about, whether you are a user, clinician, or researcher. So as a clinician myself, what we care about the most is probably not the accuracy of the model. Of course it's important, but it's not the first thing that we look at. What's most important for clinicians is how data is stored, how that data is used. And for clinicians, all the tools that we use in, for example, my practice has to comply with the Australian Health Act, Privacy Act. So if an AI model can't tell me how they handle this data, or when the patients withdraw the consent for the data to be used or stored, how the data will be processed at that stage, it's not trustworthy, and that model will not be used or applied or tested in the practice. Another issue, it would be when it comes to, for example, my PhD focuses a lot on whether we can develop an AI model to accurately predict who will go on to attempt suicide, which is very risky and high-stakes situation. What's important at this stage is probably not so much about the accuracy of the model, because a lot of people, already be able to develop quite high accuracy model at this stage. What's important is that the black box issues of this model, whether the model can explain to the clinicians why it arrived at a particular prediction. For example, if the prediction outputs, or it tells me that this patient in front of me will be at high risk of attempting suicide next week. What I want to know is that why it thinks so. So the question around why or explainability of these models is very crucial at this stage. Yeah. Yep. Because, when we say this patient is likely to attempt suicide, it will have quite serious decision-making consequences, whether we hospitalize these patients or whether we need to follow them up intensively.
I suppose, Josh, given the model itself, to train a model you would need a lot of quality data, and perhaps that's where the question is in relation to the acquisition of such quality data. Was it a challenge to kind of get those information, and is it only Australian based, or you kind of collaborate with people in overseas with those data?
Yeah. We have a lot of data at the moment, but I think one of the topical issues in machine learning world, or AI predictive models, is that whether the models that we have developed, they are biased towards certain population. Because the data that we use at the moment potentially primarily based on white populations. Whether they are biased towards certain populations like LGBT or, Asian populations, that's a question that we really need to think deeply about. Because if the model is trained on quite biased data, the outputs will be biased as well.
Thanks for sharing this. In the legal space, I understand it's quite an area where information is critical, the way it's framed, the way you kind of deliver it as well. But Kathryn, perhaps a question for you is, what legal pitfalls should entrepreneurs watch for when building AI businesses, given that your client is an Trinity alumni, as you mentioned, and it seems quite an innovative direction that they're undertaking. What kind of guardrails and all do you put in place?
Thank you, Stephen. That's a very interesting question, and I think something that is relevant to a lot of the entrepreneurs and founders that are in the room with us tonight as well. As a legal profession and someone who works really closely with startup founders like Angela in the ABA, I have consistently noticed that founders are amazing at innovating. So they're amazing at finding a particular idea and growing that idea into something that is tangible and functional. However, it's also that rush to innovate that could also be a pitfall. And the reason why it's a pitfall is that they overlook things like regulations and compliance. Now look, I get it. As a lawyer of the room, of course, I'm going to be talking about regulation and compliance, right? Like it's quite cliche. But I stress it within the industry of AI because of the way that AI learns. Similar to what Stephen and Josh have touched on, AI learn by essentially consuming data sets. And these data sets are a large amount of information that the AI essentially takes on board and learns from in terms of like trends, behavior, and like inconsistencies and so forth as well. So for example, if the data set is filled with inconsistency or bias, like Josh touched on, or is filled with copyright infringement issues, what happens at the end is a product that is also riddled with issues and errors. If the input is one that is filled with inconsistent and incomplete information, then irrespective of how high functioning the AI platform could be, the output would be something that is erogenous. And this is also the reason why when medical professionals like Josh and legal industries like myself are so hesitant to take AI on as a useful, powerful tool is because of that trustworthy factor. We simply at the moment cannot trust that AI have those regulations in place. For example, in 2024, there was a case study that was done in America by In Nature. And in that case study, they were employing essentially an AI platform that is to act as a hiring manager for a company. And that AI platform was fed inconsistent information as well as very biased information that was prehistorical to that particular company. The output was that AI platform only was considering candidates of a particular sex and race. What happened in the end was that platform was scrapped due to violations of anti-discriminatory laws. Now, that is a clear, case study as to how AI could have a detrimental impact in our society. And that's why with entrepreneurs who are developing AI platforms and softwares who are incorporating them into business, I would highly suggest aligning yourself with regulation and not thinking of regulation as a checkbox to tick at the very end, but incorporating every step of that development. So think of regulation alongside with development and functionality. I think that's the only way in which you can build an AI platform that is both functional and also enduring the test of time as well.
That's interesting. Thanks for sharing this. Perhaps I'll jump to same topic, privacy, to Kelvin. Given that you teach students, how do you teach them to use AI in finance while protecting sensitive data?
So I guess, so both Kathryn and Josh touched base on something very interesting. So I guess to answer your question, I probably will start with some modern techniques that can help us to. Well, I mean, even before that, I should probably make a distinction, distinguishment between data privacy and security, because privacy and security are two different things. Security are more or less about data access, whether access is authenticated or not. where privacy is something slightly more complicated, it depending on the context. Whether data is collected for the right purpose, whether data is being handled in the right way, whether data is being shared in a way that we've already communicated with the users. So my point is privacy is something different and it's context-based. So it's not like, in security or encryption, you have a, industry standard. You just, employ things like, AES to encrypt all of your data and, you assume that, everything will going to be fine. Privacy is case by case, depending on how you're going to use your data, what data you collect. So so the current, research on privacy preserving technologies, especially those that enable AI techniques to, to work with data. So the different kind of techniques, and depending on what you want to do. I can give you some examples, like, back in 2016 or 2017, there was a Mikey data leak in Melbourne. Because the Public Transport Victoria, they did anonymize the data by removing all the identifier information, but still, they've released all the accurate information on, what time people touched on, what time people touched off at what location, and those information are accurate enough for individuals to be identified from the data set, perhaps together with some other additional data sets. So that's something that can be protected by using some technique called differential privacy. Another example is, for example, if you want to download a mobile app, registered as a user, the app company often asks you to, would you like to share your contact list so we know who else is, in your contact list is already a user of the app. Obviously, if you share, then you worry that, the company may know all the contact lists that you have in your phone. This is something that can be done, can be protected using, it's under a big framework called secure multi-party computation. Specifically, this is something we call a private set intersection, because you have two different sets. One set is your contact list on the phone. One set is the company's, large database, and they want to compare the two sets to see, who else on your phone is in their database. And this can be done in a protected way so that the company only knows those people on your phone who are already users of the company, of the app, and they don't know anyone else. Another example is, we can now do computations, simple computation like addition, multiplication on encrypted data, which we couldn't do before. So, think about your data being encrypted in a way that no one can see it and no one understands it. It used to be the case where encryption is only for transitioning data or, storing data. Now we can do simple computations, to even build simple machine learning models on encrypted data without, people actually seeing the data. So those are different techniques that, we use. Not exactly that I teach at uni, because we're not there yet. And that's to my, next point is, I think there's a big education gap, especially in Australia, where, how we teach or whether we teach enough, privacy related techniques in IT or other degrees. Because only recently I've started putting cybersecurity topics in my data science subjects, and this is only because the Australian Computing Society is it's for accreditation purpose, and it's a requirement. We have to put it in there. But for all the advanced techniques that I discussed just now, we don't teach any of those in any of the Australian universities as a formal subject. So. That's been said, it's concerning because of, different reasons. One reason, as, what Kathryn just mentioned, people don't trust, AI enough because, they don't know what, techniques are there to protect data privacy when building AI models. So if universities don't teach, people, don't teach students, then, the public wouldn't know, what to expect. And the second is, traditional methods of simple anonymization or, deleting people's name and address are not strong enough because, there are so many data available on the internet. People can just download additional data and do some, any kind of attack that they can to identify individuals. And also education, plays a big role, on building people's trust in, trustworthy AI systems. I guess last point is on, I don't really teach students, in a way that's, machine learning or AI and data privacy. So, it's kind of like a trade-off. You have to sacrifice one for the other. Not that case. We teach them in a way that, they think about privacy as they're building models. So, a popular term is called privacy by design. Because we think, with all these privacy technologies, privacy enhancing technologies, they enable us to do things that, we couldn't do before. Because organizations used to do modeling by themselves. Now we encourage more and more collaborations. With all these, government policies and legal requirements, in addition to these privacy technologies, we think, there are more possibilities that, organizations can collaborate to achieve better things.
Yeah, thanks, Kelvin. I think there are some common themes there about the data privacy in the organization from Kathryn in terms of the legal space, psychology space, even from the teaching part. But it seems like to alleviate this, one of the options is for organization to build their own model, which is very energy intensive, costly as well. So in a sense, that's an avenue. Well, yeah, that's what some startups are trying to kind of achieve. And as you might have all heard, DeepSeek a couple of months ago made a big wave in the world, given that they managed to fine-tune certain algorithms to make things a bit more efficient. But coming back to Australia itself, though, like Yifei, you are an entrepreneur. You build your own model. I believe you mentioned in your office you might have some kind of small-scale model. But question for you, Yifei, is what do most entrepreneurs miss when trying to commercialize AI solutions?
I think that's really a great question, and I always do the self-reflection to myself and to try to figure out are there anything that we're missing. Apparently, as Kathryn and Josh and also Kevin mentioned about, there's a lot of arguments about using the AI and whether we should being a bit more conservative about the AI development and also leveraging the AI to speed up the workflow and creating more efficiency planning. But from what I can see is apparently this is just the beginning of the AI wave. Just apparently it's not mature. I think we're just setting the bar too high. And apparently this is currently, as far as I can see, AI, although it's quite powerful now and goes through some bottleneck, but apparently we, as an entrepreneur, we need to always make sure that AI is just a machine that cannot be responsible for all the corporate decisions. All the decisions, all the output needs to be verified by the domain expert. So AI can help to increase the efficiency rather than actually take over all the jobs, take over all the opportunities. So what I can see is a lot of the AI entrepreneurs, their expectation is very high. It's good to have a very bold ideas or bold aim, which is we're trying to using the AI to creating the greatest the artworks or a lot of creating some great stuff. But what I can see is as far at this stage, what we're trying to do is we just leveraging the knowledge from the domain experts and then to try to minimize a lot of tedious work. And try to reduce a lot of the workload for the employees and really to set them free from a lot of daily work. And in that case, to really help them to have a work-life balance. So this is something what I can see. We can't really having a very unrealistic aims. Yeah. That's the main thing.
Thanks for sharing this. In terms of there are some of the tools you've built, in particular in relation to education. They are quite interesting, I would say. But sticking with education, as mentioned briefly earlier, 86% of tertiary students already rely on AI tools in their studies, be it doing their own assignment, if not, but it's quite common. You hear a lot of stories. One story is from one academics, not here, but far away from here. They mentioned that students is simply using AI tools to just create the assignment, so much so that one student even copy and paste the prompt they use to generate the assignment, and it was kind of picked up by the lecturer. But anyway, that kind of change in mindset is quite relevant in these days. But perhaps I'll just open a kind of generic question to the panel on how should a school change what they teach to prepare students for an AI-powered workplace? Anyone would want to share their thoughts on that one?
All right, I'll start on this. I guess I can share an interesting story. Just a few days ago, my son, so he's in year 3 now. He brought home a mathematics question. Obviously to me it was simple, but to him it was a bit challenging. And he was asking me, well, at first he was asking, Mom, how to do it, and Mom couldn't figure it out. And he said, why don't we use ChatGPT? And I was quite surprised. And we asked him, how do you know GPT? And he said, one of the classmates in the class said, they use GPT to help them to solve problems. So it's really surprising that, AI, Gen AI, large language model, all these things has, expanded into our life much quicker and deeper than we thought. But, I guess, just to make a comparison, with internet or search engines, back a few decades ago, things are probably similar. Was changing the ways how people work, how people study. People used to spend days, in libraries reading books and papers, try to find the reference. I still remember the days we used to do these things in Trinity. But then now, we just go onto internet and do a Google search, and we find things that we need, and we just take it. And with Gen AI and large language model, the situation is similar, except it's making things even worse. So from the I guess from the educational industry, obviously people, organizations have already started changing, but AI has made things a bit more urgent. But still, similar to the internet story, I guess schools will soon start. I think all schools now teach students internet safety, be aware of cyber predators, cyber bullying, all those things. Maybe in a few decades, or maybe even sooner, we'll start teaching those things about Gen AI as well, how to be a responsible user. And my thinking on that is, obviously we need to teach them what AI is, where to use it, how to interact with AI. That's all more on the functional side. On the responsible side, we encourage them to be a responsible user, use their critical thinkings when, getting information from AI, because, AI knows a lot of things, but it doesn't think the way as we do. So a lot of things that AI give to you can be misleading. So use your critical thinking, be aware of the, ethical concerns and other things. And also, if you use AI to help you to do your work or study, it's really helpful, because I use it every day. I use it to understand some mathematical questions. I use it to help me to programming. It's really useful, but you have to understand, how to best use AI to help you to achieve what you want. You can't just, simply, this is what we told our son as well. You can't just, simply ask AI to give you a solution and then, write it on your solution book. You have to, use it as a way to motivate to learn. Same as, we had internet for quite a while, but, we're still learning things. We're not just, taking internet and, rely on internet to live.
Having a good foundation, I think that's what you're trying to alleviate, Kelvin. Every individual needs to have the foundation to be able to think before they kind of use AI, because looking at AI as a leverage is the way to view AI properly. But in the same vein, Yifei, in terms of education, that's your sector. Any particular innovation you kind of thought on introducing in the education sector?
Thanks, Stephen. I would just like to share a bit about our AI innovations in the education industries. So the whole idea actually is coming from when we do delivering the lectures and also the workshops to the students. From what we can see, just like usually what we do, the normal approach is we just like stand on at the front and always delivering all the teaching contents and don't necessarily like really care about whether you fully understand and absorb all the information or not, right? Because that's actually basically you are in the unis and that's your job to really like to do the self-learnings and also to grasp all the ideas. But what we found is you will see something very interesting. I think it's always the truth, which is as the semester goes, at the very beginning, there's a lot of like students. The participant like rate is very high. Everyone shows up. At the end of the semester, no one even show up. Actually, now this is the week 11 in Melbourne Uni semesters now. And today I was quite shocked. Like only 3 students like participate in my workshop. So I wonder like what they're doing now. And they said they are all preoccupied with all the assignments and projects. And so busy preparing all the exam, which I get it, right? But the issue is maybe there's something that we can try to improve by using the AI and generative AI or other high-tech technologies to really improve the like students like experience and also to really enhance the teaching experience as well. So what we do is we found maybe it's good to really creating a tools that for them to see all the images, not only the 2D but also in the panorama images, which is like a 3D, to give them a really immersive experience about the whole environment, to set the scenario to them, to really let them to go into the things, go into the scenarios, and also have a lot of like a real-time response by clicking some kind of buttons, and all the results just instantly just pop up into my screen. All right, so this is something, because what we found is the vast majority of the students are actually the visual learners. Rather than they just hate just like me, as a student, I always read a lot of the lengthy content stuff. Right, so we're trying to creating the virtual reality environment, and also to really let them to go into the scene and let them know, okay, this is the scenario of now we're trying to building a construction site, and are there any risk inside of these sites? And we just try and let them to using the tablets or even using the goggles to experience it and to really point out what's the issue there. And as a lecturers or instructors, right, we can see all the results from their submissions and instantly, and we will be able to know whether they fully understand, whether they catch up our ideas, or we go backwards and to talk this stuff again. All right, so this is some stuff that we come up with, and then we trying to, it's actually the students like it, but however, the researchers and the professors thinks differently. The reason is because their KPI or they're more focused on, they're interested in the research rather than too much interest on the teaching side. So we come up with an idea. Why not to do creating a functionality that by leveraging the generative AI to let them to just type a few prompts, type a few words to describe the whole environment, and by using our AI, we can automatically generate the 3D images for them to use it, and also we can come up some questions for them to pick, and to ease the time and efforts to generating the useful teaching material. So this is something that we are now doing, and we've been lucky enough to get a lot of support and fundings from Melbourne Uni and also Department of Education. Now we're just doing another funding programs in the coding universities as well for their construction subjects. So I was thinking that this is something we trying to, as I just mentioned, we're trying to reduce a lot of working load, heavy workload, and really trying to increase and improve the efficiency for the workers and employees. Yeah.
So does it mean, Yifei, that in a short term, we should be seeing, when we walk to university, we'll be seeing a lot of people carrying their goggle to kind of in a virtual world? That would be interesting.
That's something, Stephen. I think I can see the real application of those sort of tools or applications in medical or mental health fields where, at the moment where if we put students in their final year or their internship year to see patients straight away, it's quite high stakes situations and put a lot of stress, pressure and stress on the students. But if we can create something like that for students to practice with, that can create a lot of safety net for them. And I think great learning experience as well.
That's actually a very great idea, Josh, and that's actually pops up in my mind. There's another good stuff about the generative AI. Actually, we're trying to reduce the risk. For example, we trying to teach the students about what if there is a environment that already caught up a fire. And we can't really, when we set a fire there and then we take a real image for that, right? So in that case, we can leveraging the generative AI to help us to creating that kind of, the virtual scenarios and then help them to really training their ideas and also their procedures later on. Yeah, great idea.
We can talk more about it later.
Yeah.
So, but as mentioned earlier, 20% of current jobs is expected to be displaced by 2030. It makes sense when you kind of hear all this technology. It's about productivity. AI is kind of leveraging productivity, but we do have a set workforce. But may I ask the panel about their views on what kind of jobs is AI creating rather than replacing?
I think this is an amazing question and something that it's a question it's a classical question as well. I feel like it's been around since the industrial period, right? People thought that the machines were going to replace everyone through the factories. And then again in the 1980s when there was Hollywood films about how AI is going to destroy the world. And I think it's finally coming up again with the emergence of AI and generative technology. And I think there's always two schools of thoughts where the first kind of group thinks very dire in gloom that AI is going to take all our jobs, it's going to grow so competent that we're going to be subservient to it and we are enslaved by AI, right? And the other school of thought is a bit more optimistic, and I think this is where I also agree with Yifei as well, where AI would allow people to kind of free up their time and space because AI can then do the grunt work. When I talk about grunt work, let's say in the legal industry, when a deal is on and there is an acquisition for a target entity, there is a bunch of legal due diligence that needs to be done. And sometimes lawyers reviewing up to 1,000 to 2,000 worth of documents and contracts. As you can imagine, for a single person to be reading through those contracts, it's incredibly laborious. And it's also a point that, for example, most of the legal costs could blow out during the due diligence process as well. So if AI gets to a point where it's so reliable and trustworthy, and all that is required is that humans or a junior lawyer even could just review the process of how AI is undergoing those contract reviews, that could save time. A deal could literally close probably within 4 months as opposed to 9. It also could change and impact the way that lawyers and different industry grows as well. It would allow people to participate in higher order thinking. And I think that would be a wonderful thing. I don't think it's here to displace jobs. I think it's here to evolve and augment industries. So I think we should definitely embrace it.
Thanks for sharing. Any other comments from anyone?
I think both Yifei and Kathryn, mentioned something very interesting. So I guess, perhaps, not to think of AI as replacing workers or people. Think about them as, replacing tasks, manual tasks that, things like, reviewing thousands of words of legal documents. Those things that, Gen AI can certainly do much faster than human being. But, I guess, from my perspective, I don't really think of, I don't know what kind of, jobs AI will create. To be honest, but certainly what I feel is AI has created more opportunities. It's transitioning how we do our works now. So I can give you examples myself. So, you know, I'm okay with mathematical equations and models, but, you know, I'm a bit slower on programming. I can do programming, but, you know, I'm a bit slow on that. So I used to, you know, hesitate to collaborate with software engineers because, you know, that's my weak part. And, you know, I try to just, you know, leave things for them to do. So that makes collaboration harder. But now with AI, I can quickly understand, you know, the important concepts in different domain, you know, as an expert from a different domain. I can quickly understand, you know, the structure and also, you know, ask the right questions when doing collaboration. So it sort of, you know, enable me to collaborate people in a much better and efficient way. That's one thing. Another, you know, possibility I look at is it's sort of, you know, increase people's career possibilities. So I mean, if you think about, you know, position descriptions on recruitment, you know, they often have, you know, required skills, this and those. You know, also some of them will have some desired skills. You don't have to have those experience, you know, but it's preferable if you do. I mean, at least that's what they say, right? When it comes to recruitment, you know, obviously they prefer you to have it as a must. But, you know, these days, you know, if they say something is a preferable, you know, knowledge, perhaps that's something that, you know, AI can help you to get, you know, while you're doing the work, while you focus on your core skills. You know, maybe I'm not a software engineer, I'm a mathematician, but, you know, it doesn't mean, you know, I can't understand the software engineer concepts. So, you know, if you're a learning designer, you've been always, you know, designing subjects for arts subjects, you know, never touched any engineering subjects at all in your life. But it doesn't matter now, because, you know, you don't have to be an engineer to become a learning designer to design engineering subjects. Now you have AI to help you to understand the key concepts in there. So you can still be a, you know, so it makes, you know, career transition a bit easier. That's, you know, how I see it.
So just to summarize what you say, perhaps soft skill is a key core requirements for everyone to really have to navigate that future of the workforce. And we talked about AI, but AGI is also not too far away. So some expect AGI will kind of be possible or kind of achieved by 2029. Perhaps, you know, it ties in well with the prediction of that 22% job displacement. Any other thoughts in terms of?
Could I just jump in quickly? Just echoing Kelvin's idea of soft skills and the importance of it as well. I want to stress that being human is so important, and that's something that we can't outsource, and it's something that AI doesn't have. Even as lawyers, it's an incredibly, as much as it's a very technical profession, it's also a deeply human profession. So we need to have empathy, we need to understand human nuance and emotions, and motivations and intention as well. I could sit across from my fellow opposition, and depending on the way that they are emoting, their subtle facial features, we can deduce a lot of information from that, and I don't think AI can ever replace that type of experience. So I think view of AI as a co-pilot, like someone you could work with collaboratively, but it's not something that can essentially overrule humans at the end of the day.
So, Josh?
Touch on that. I think it's a very interesting point for discussion, because when AI first came out, or GPT first came out a few years back, people were talking about jobs that would be replaced, and they always put psychologists or mental health clinicians at the bottom of the list because they think it's a very human type of job where you have to deal with not numbers but people's emotions and empathy. But there's quite a few research papers that come out recently showing they tested people's or patients' experiences when they interact anonymously with a robot or a clinician, and they actually, a lot of people report having more positive experiences with robots, and obviously they're blind to that in that experiment. But I also want to touch on something you mentioned earlier, Kathryn, about high order thinking. I myself don't know what kind of jobs will be replaced or will be created in the future because of AI, but I really think AI should be used only to facilitate what you do, to replace the tedious admin jobs that are getting in the way. But if you leave the thinking to AI, that's when you're more likely to be replaced in the future. An example would be if you ask ChatGPT to generate an essay for you, and if you don't spend time thinking about why that essay is better than the version that you wrote, and how you can learn from that version written by ChatGPT, for example, that's when you stop learning. So I think
That's a critical point you just mentioned, Josh. Talking about AI, and the next wave you might have heard is agentic AI, where tools will be talking with other tools to get the task done. And I can spend hours on that one, but I think given the time we have, the limited time we have, and the topic is so broad, perhaps I might just, it's a good time to open it to the audience to ask some questions. So we're just going to take a few questions given the time limitation. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll pass the mic across, and then we'll hopefully be able to address your question. So we have one here.
Sebastian is my name. I'd love to hear from all four of you, maybe even the fifth one, Stephen. And my question is simple. What is the most, what's the most common AI package that you use in your profession, and why? Maybe ladies first.
We can share the mic there.
Hello? Okay. Currently in the legal profession, we're not adopting AI to its full potential, simply because of, I guess, risk factors like data protection and privacy. And I guess one of the cornerstone of being a legal professional is that we have very high standards of legal privilege with our client. And that's also the reasons why we're afraid to send those data to AI platforms who are usually hosted on cloud-based infrastructures. So our usage of AI systems are quite, I guess, ancient. We use essentially rules-based systematic AI, which is essentially, think of it as a SharePoint with better protective mechanisms that's currently built in it. However, that doesn't mean that the legal profession disregards AI completely. We completely understand that AI is a massive power tool with enormous potential. So what we're currently doing is firms are actively working towards building their own AI platform on a closed loop service. So what that means is that it's usually the AI platform is built in-house on our personal servers and domains. So any information that has been obtained by clients, etc., they don't leave the server. It stays completely closed off. And it also means that we can, I guess, control the information that is that the AI is being trained on as well.
I think we literally had this discussion the other day, talking about different AI models or packages or tools that we used. So in my clinical practice as a psychologist, we are testing two tools at the moment to transcribe the patient's notes. Has anyone heard of scribing sort of tools? Yeah. So sorry, what's that? So it's a transcribing tool, so it's an AI tool that listens to the sessions. For example, when you attend a GP appointment, the AI tool will be sort of embedded in the platform that they use, and it will listen to the session between you and your GP, and it will output a patient summary note, because we know that the case notes, or writing case notes for patients, is probably one of the most time-consuming tasks. And two tools, if you want to look up, that we're testing at this stage are Heidi Health and Nova Note, so N-O-V-O Note.
Thank you.
But I also think ChatGPT is great. I don't think Stephen agrees with me, but
I use a range of tools. I like to test the tools to see which one provides the more response that aligns with my thinking as well. But I use Monica. Monica.im is a tool that packages all the models that you have out there, from Claude to ChatGPT, DeepSeek, etc. And I've also actually tested Manus.im. Manus is an agentic AI, which is, I would say, it kind of blew my mind when I kind of tested Manus. It's just You give it a task and you would just go through search on the web, if not on the other AI, to kind of get all the information that you want, package it and deliver it. As an example, it's just, I've asked it to just build a website for me. I like a certain theme here and there. With just one prompt, they just deliver you a website in a zip file after an hour of computing. That's minus.im. But I'm not sure if Kelvin has a preferred one.
I guess for me, so I use GPT a lot, almost every day, on different things. Things that I would tell and things that I won't. And by the way, when I do renovation, I use GPT to help me to, to manage my renovation and also to understand the Australian building code. That's something on the side. But on my daily job, so I use GPT a lot especially when I need to write computer programs to do things. It used to took me days to finish a short program to achieve something. Now I use GPT, and that can help me in hours to do it. It's very efficient. I used to, at the start, I felt really bad about it, and then I thought, okay, that's good. I don't have to learn computer programs anymore. That's the first thing. The second is, when I read research papers, especially mathematical papers, mathematicians sometimes are arrogant, and they say things like, the proof is trivial, so I won't even talk about it. Sometimes they don't actually know it. So I use GPT to help me to understand, all these mathematical problems. GPT is not strong enough to really understand, things in the way that we do, but it's a very good and unified resource to help us to understand, to learn new things, and sometimes to see things that we oversee. We don't pay attention to those small things. And I guess the third application is when I write a complaint email to my school executives. I try to be formal and polite, especially polite. So, after I write the first draft, I always give it to GPT to help me to make it more polite and also to polish it a bit. So that's how I use it day to day. What is it? It works very well. But also everyone knows it's from GPT. Because it's very formal, and if you use it a lot, you'll sort of see the pattern. Yeah.
When you say GPT, are you talking about ChatGPT or are you talking
about another GPT? I use ChatGPT a lot. I also used DeepSeek when I was in China. Yeah.
My answer will be slightly different. The reason is because we have so much sensitivity data, and also we have a lot of collaborations with a lot of research organizations and universities, and also the government stuff, right? And also some hospitals data, educations like a student's data. So so that's the reason why we actually have our own a powerful AI workstations that have multiple different kind of NVIDIA graphic cards. So in that case, all the data that actually, as you mentioned about the GPT, right? So we have our own LLM, our own large language models to dealing with to training the data and to leverage the power of by using our own AI workstations. And although it's not very expensive, not very cheap, it's going to be quite resource consuming, and you always need to take the cooling system on, and also you need to have all the fans, I think more than 10 fans running at the same time. And so this is something that for my startups and all those stuff. But aside from that, I'm also a heavy user. Just for my own life will be the ChatGPT, and I will recommend I've tried the Midjourney for generating some 2D images, some kind of a logo stuff, or as sometimes we need to have a poster. So this is also a very good one. And another one, if you want something really a bit more professional sense, it will be Perplexity. Yeah, another one. Yeah. So this is the main stuff we're gonna use. But if for the work, and we mainly just using our own self developed the LLM system. Thank you.
Do we
quickly mention as well that if you are affiliated with Melbourne Uni also has their own AI tool that I just found out last week. It's quite similar to JetGPT, but Melbourne Uni recommends that you use that tool instead of JetGPT. So if you just look at Melbourne Uni AI tool, it will come out.
We have one more question there.
Hi, my name is Kim. So the Stanford University in April released the Artificial Intelligence Index, which showed that in 2024, 40 AI models were released from the US, 15 models from China, and 3 from Europe. Now, I personally have used Claude AI, ChatGPT, Grok, which is Elon Musk's X AI, and personally I think Grok's the best one that I've used. Haven't used Monica from China. But I was wondering, like, just quantity does not obviously equal quality or power. So I was wondering if any of the panelists had a view on who will win the AI race, China or the US?
That's a very tough question, Kim. Thanks for the question. The race is indeed between China and the US. With the development of DeepSeek, it's proven to the world that the mindset of computation algorithm is different in certain kind of population. Necessity is a mother of invention, as how they framed it. The race is still there. With the kind of, I mentioned Manas. Manas is also from China. There seems to be very close kind of race, but for me, there is a clear kind of pattern, but I'll leave it to the panel. Perhaps there's any thoughts.
Yeah, that really is a tough question to answer. But from my point of view, is I can see. Again, like there might be some like a comparison and competitions between like China and the US like AI capabilities. But what I can see is actually there is 2 different kind of point of view. The first thing is I think I can see this is definitely a very positive side, which is you have to have some like competitors that always help push you to always to have some breakthrough in the technologies. So I do see this is actually very important, but it's very hard to tell which one actually gonna wins the best. And but from another point of view, actually, because sometimes I attend a lot of like government summits, and from what we can see is why not Australia can do some kind of like AI innovations and actually to do some more about the AI applications. So that's also another way. I mean, maybe we are like having not too much like AI resources comparing to the US in terms of hardware, right? In terms of in US and the China, but we do have a lot of innovations around AI. The reason why you might not have heard about it, that was because it's a lot of stuff is under development right now. But like I've already heard a lot of like the startups have a very great potential to be unicorns. Like very soon, I think maybe like just in like a half year, you will be like seeing a lot of like Australian like unicorns coming out. So I do think Australia can be also like a strong like a leader that in the AI innovation as well. Yeah.
I can see a few more hands up there. Well, the hands warmed up. So who was it? I think on that side.
Thank you. Because Kevin mentioned about in the past you used library to study or something, and I work in the library. My question for all you, do you use library nowadays, or how do you think the AI will impact the library in the future, or why you not use it, or how would you like to use the library in the time of AI?
Good question. So short answer is yes, I still use libraries now. I haven't finished my story yet. There's always a but. I do borrow books from library from time to time, but I only keep those books on my desk. I don't really read them. It's because sometimes I do feel like reading hard copies. Sometimes I take books outside with me, so it's easier to read rather than on a screen. But I do spend, to be honest, I do spend the majority of my time reading papers and books on the internet because we have free PDF access and everything. So I guess, but there are things that we still have hard copies in the library where we don't have soft copies on the internet. In those cases, I, still have to use books, use libraries. Yeah.
Perhaps I have a quick question, a quick response from my end. I do still use library as well when I want quiet times, which is a bit different to the concept of library. But we'll take a last question perhaps, or two more.
Thank you.
One there.
Thank you so much. I am Anna, came to Melbourne 21 years ago from Vietnam. So love seeing some Vietnamese sitting on the panel there. Well done, kudos. My question is, as human beings, we are striving to improve, to evolve, so that we can improve our quality of life. Yeah? So everything we have done so far is to improve quality of life, and then quality of life requires enough time for ourselves, enough time for our family, enough time and money for, things that matter. How do you see AI development can help us buy back our time, improve our quality of life, and can replace our workforce so that we can be free and travel more, do more that matter? Thank you.
I'm kind of a bit lazy guy when I was when I was home. So because I was pretty much doing 24/7 for the startups and also some teaching load. But so when I always went home, I exhausted and don't want to do a lot of housework. So now that apparently you can see, so if there's no washing machine, if there's no dishwasher, then my life will be screwed, and I will always have an endless fight with my partners. So I do really think this is especially important to have some high-tech stuff. Currently, I would like to mention now we AI Builder is now doing some kind of AI robotic stuff to trying to cleaning and do some kind of cleanings and also wiping stuff and try to do some housekeeping things. And in that case, there will be no much arguments or fights between partners or the family members. Yeah, this is definitely very important for me.
It is an evolution that's tough to kind of comprehend sometimes. That is a beautiful question. It's about the evolution and adaptation that would eventually evolve, and the adaptation and the norm would still adapt to it, I would say. But it's a tough question. We'll perhaps...
Can I add something quickly? This might sound a little bit controversial, but I think the question around quality of life, maybe it doesn't come from speed. It doesn't come from speeding up or catching up with things or achieving things. Certain things, especially when it comes to meaningful connections in life and things like that, have to take time. And maybe quality of life come when we start slowing down.
I agree with Josh completely. My mic isn't working. But, okay. So I agree with Josh completely because I feel like I'm working hard. I've did 7 years of uni, and that's also that when I'm 50, I can have a farm with a bunch of dogs, right? That's all I want. And I think the way that AI can play a massive role is taking away the labor. So because people spend so much time doing the laborious jobs, it can take an extreme amount of time that AI could essentially do everything in a fraction of that time. So if AI can supplement humans in that front, potentially by the time I'm 30, I can have dogs in a farm.
That's a good response. Perhaps, as mentioned, it relates to time. Time is something we cannot by. Unfortunately, we are out of time. But I would like to thank the panel, Kathryn, in particular in your industry, the legal space. The way you kind of frame it and how you use AI is kind of evolving, but the soft skill, as also mentioned by Josh, is quite relevant. The research, Josh, that you're doing is quite relevant. Yeah, if you get that up and running, it's a worldwide project, I would say, relevant to every country. Kelvin, your research is also quite interesting. We kind of talked about quantum computing last time, but that perhaps a topic for next time. But definitely want to kind of explore a bit further in that space. Yifei, the projects you're doing, you might have just mentioned one or two today, but the other 15 you might not have mentioned, but it's a good kind of approach, I would say, the way you frame things, the way you want to create a certain aspect to elevate productivity, hence perhaps the last question to give people a bit more time to relax. Thanks again for being here tonight. We do have a bit more time if you want to have, we're going to take more questions, but there's still opportunity about an hour for networking. You can ask the panel members directly the question that you may have. But a round of applause to the panel. Thank you.